and with power of agility and compassion and effective leadership. So, Vandana, we are very, very glad to have you here. So, I welcome you again from the entire Project Management Institute North India chapter fraternity, and over to you. We are really, really excited for this one.
Thank you, Deepti, for giving me this opportunity to interact with such an distinguished and esteemed partner. And, and it's my pleasure and my honor, I feel honored, to have presented here and share my experience. So I also look forward to the session and, this particular one, let's make it as interactive as possible. And at the same time, be cautious of the time, the deadline that we have from that perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let me share, I hope you can see. Okay, great. So first of all, I would like to know from you I hope you can see the screen. You can see the presentation?
We can.
Okay, great. So first of all, I want to ask, what do you think is cybersecurity? Anybody can type in the chat or can speak. What do you think is cybersecurity?
Guys, anyone? Yeah, Shivangi, go ahead. You can unmute yourself and talk. Yeah.
I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, we can.
We can.
Okay. Yeah. So as per my thinking and what I think is, cybersecurity is a way of protecting our customers, through like on the internet world, as most of the things are being done online these days, whether it is shopping, whether it is banking, everything is online. So for that, we have to protect our customers' information as data and whatever personal information they are sharing to us. That is very important, and that is very thing to be taken care of. So that is what cybersecurity is. We need to protect our customers from hackers and people who try to steal the information without customers' consent and try to misuse that information.
Very rightly said, Shivangi. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, it is all about preventing, against the cyber attacks, because we have a lot of hackers around, a lot of dark web folks around, because of which the cyber attacks are very common. I'm sure you would have heard some time ago, about a year and a half ago, about the AIMS data bank being hijacked, and then they had asked for cryptocurrencies to be paid in cryptocurrencies. They had gone so high tech that they didn't wanted any cash or anything. They just wanted crypto because the trail could not be, found in terms of where the money is going actually and where they are located, which part of the world they are in. So that is the level of, expertise that the attackers have today. And therefore, it is important for us to be a step ahead. We need to be very proactive. We need to be a step ahead. And it is not only about having the necessary technology, the practices and the policies within the organization in terms of the cyber, security. That's what it is all about. You need to have the technology, you need to have the practices, and you need to have the policies at the organization level towards this. But it is also about how to mitigate that, right? In terms of how to mitigate the impact. So when there is an attack, how you are going to, what action are you going to take? So one is prevention, but one is also corrective action, right? How are you going to, mitigate the attack once it has happened? What actions are to be taken? So that is utmost important, because most of the time the organizations think so much about protecting that they don't feel that ever they will be hijacked into, or there will be a breach which will happen. And then what actions would they take in terms of making, sanitizing the environment back again and normalizing the operations, right? So when you talk about cybersecurity, it is not only your laptop or your device, but it is also about the network. It is also about the software, the programs which are there. It is also about the data, right? So that all is something which is needs to be taken into consideration. I'll give you a very real life example, in terms of how it happens. So usually you think about it that there is a very fast growing company, maybe a startup, and it is very excited to launch a new product. And you know that most of the time these marketing people, they are running against time. They want to be the first one to launch a particular feature or a particular product so that they are able to get more business and more revenue. So they always keep the security on a back burner. That is not of their prime concern. They are so focused on the features, the functionality, the business, that they don't even worry about the security. Now, it so happened that as the software was coming to a completion, there was a vulnerability which was discovered, was basically that there is a backdoor entry that could happen, and somebody could get unauthorized access to the sensitive customer data. Now, this could bring the project to a halt. Now, what will they do? If they fix the vulnerability, they are going to lose against the time, right? There is going to be a project delay, and and which is basically meaning a loss of revenue, or maybe the customer trust if they go ahead with it, and because they've already put up big banners and advertised that they are going to launch it, and if now there is a delay, the customer trust would be there. But if they launch it, probably there could be some regulatory fines as well. So it's a wake-up call that the leadership had, that cybersecurity, you cannot just ignore it. You need to consider it into every phase of the project life cycle, right? And therefore, we are here today to discuss that how we are going to integrate the cybersecurity within the project management processes, how we are going to align it to the milestones to ensure that we are checking off at each end of each phase, we are checking off, we are having a gate checklist, to say that, okay, all is done, whatever needs to be done in this particular phase, and then we are good to go and proceed ahead.
Well, I would like thank you, Vandana. And I think that sets up the tone for the webinar. So basically, as you rightly said, cybersecurity usually takes a backseat. We usually think about product development, how that should go in the market, how it should look, but we don't consider the aspects which are very, very important these days. So thank you so much. And yeah.
Yeah, so that has been something that I wanted to set the perspective. But anybody on the forum has any experience to share with us if they faced any challenges and how did they overcome them? Please feel free to raise your hand and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, any experience that you faced while working on your project, since you come from project management background. So in your organization or in your project wherein you faced certain challenge related to cybersecurity. Anyone? You can raise your hand or type it in the chat window. No one. Okay, it seems like people are. Yeah, Richa, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Actually, in my previous project, I was working on a security because the cloud mitigation was going on. We are shifting from another location, so we are shifting our servers and all these. At that time, we lost our data. This might be because of some security reason, but still didn't find why we lost the data, because we have a very good security department and they are working since 10 years. They never felt any problem with the security of the data, but by mitigation of during, don't know why we lost the data.
Were you able to recover that data?
Yeah, no, not exactly, but somehow we recover it.
Okay, so we are going to talk about that as well, in our presentation today.
Thanks, Richa.
Thanks, Richa, for bringing that up. So we'll cover that.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
While we're waiting for others to raise their hands, so Anna Anur has shared a definition on cybersecurity, which is data encryption and controls to ensure there's no misuse of data.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah. Very technical and apt definition. Yeah, Ashish, go ahead.
Hi. So I had I'm into core cybersecurity as a project manager from last 10 years. So the major challenge which I faced, it was during ISMS implementation. There are so many data, there are so many documents to be shared in ISMS, implementing ISMS. I really feel very uncomfortable sharing those documentation, making these documentation. Though we have a separate team for that, but it is too hectic to drive that project, kind of a error-free project. So just need your expertise on this particular point. And second question is, though we generally follow waterfall models in 90% of the cybersecurity projects, but can you suggest, or kind of a strategy in which we can drive ISMS projects through agile?
Yes, so I think the fact that agile came into being and was very much practiced when we moved to cloud, right? And also the fact that even in case of cybersecurity projects, it is always good to be agile because, because one, putting in security is very cost intensive, right? So therefore, it is important that you go piecemeal by piecemeal, right? So you identify, either the software, if it is software, that this is the portion of the scope that I'm going to cover, whatever is your scope. This is the portion of the scope that I'm going to cover. Because one, you are doing the proof of concept in a way, because you are first of all testing it out, whether the processes, the tools, all that automated tools that we have today, implementing them cost licenses. So one is cost, another is that you are building it up slowly, and you are putting the tools or putting the devices and whatever, So it is always good to do in a very phased manner, in a very agile manner. Also, the fact that there are new vulnerabilities which are getting introduced almost like every day, every minute, there are vulnerabilities which are getting added, and there are, hackers who are working towards it. So from that perspective, it is important to do it in a very agile fashion. Okay, so it is never a waterfall method. I'm not sure. In my organization, we always follow, we are a proponent of agile, and we always follow agile methodology, a proof of concept methodology. So having done the proof of concept, you identify a next set of scope that needs to be incorporated into the cybersecurity, implemented into the cybersecurity project, and that is how you go piece by piece, because that's the way to see the results. Also, the learnings that you have from the first set of devices that have been, you're moving a data center, right? You're trying to build security with your data center. So if you have put 10 devices, you have your learnings from those 10 devices, which you can implement for the rest 20, for example, right? So that is how you should ideally build on it. I hope that addresses your question, Ashish.
So you are talking about kind of a VAPT projects or ISMS projects, because in ISMS the requirement is almost fixed. Nothing, no variations in the requirements come generally. Neither that kind of change request comes frequently. So that is why in my industry, in whichever companies I have worked, they only prefer waterfall only.
So it's time, because the requirements will keep changing. It's not the requirements will be static. It is always good. The VAPT, yes, definitely needs to be as a part of it, right? So we can talk offline also about it, Ashish. You can connect with me. I will be sharing my contact details towards the end of this session. So we can connect separately out there as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure, no issues.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yep.
Vandana.
Thanks. So without losing any further time, I will move on. So this is what we are going to talk today. We have already spoken why cybersecurity.
Sorry, Vandana. Sorry to interrupt. Would you please go into the presentation mode, because the font is a bit, yeah, it's better now. Thank you.
Okay. So I hope it's visible now.
It is.
Okay. So we are talking about planning, which is basically about the initiation and the planning phase and the risk assessment that need to be done there. Then we're talking about the execution and also collaborating with the teams, because it's nothing happens today without the collaboration. Then then we need to do check in terms of the controls, the monitoring part, and then act in terms of the disposal, the decommissioning of the devices or the infrastructure or the software, whatever it is. And then a couple more things which are important in terms of taking action, and then we will conclude. So in nutshell, it is about building security from the ground up. We need to integrate cyber resiliency into every project. So always follow the plan, do, check, act, again, on the very much on the agile principle, so that you're able, it's a cyclic thing. So we need to identify what is it that we are trying to do. We need to test out, or, do a pilot or do whatever we want to test whether whatever we are doing, is it yielding the results, and then take up necessary corrective or the preventive action that needs to be taken to further improve. So it's a continuous improvement journey, because the vulnerabilities are also changing day by day. Okay, so we have already discussed this. It is cybersecurity is very critical because we are all in a internet world, and we need to integrate it with the management frameworks, project management framework, and this will ensure that our project is successful. So that's where we are. So coming to the initiation phase. So first of all, you need to define what are your security goals. This is usually done by the execs in terms of the goals that they want. And based on that, the scope which has been set out, you do a risk assessment because you want to identify what are the potential security risks for which you need to plan out in the subsequent phases. All right. Also, it will help you to incorporate the mitigation strategies into your project plan. Also, there are a lot of regulatory requirements. So if you are in, in pharma, you will have HIPAA. If you are in banking, you will have PCI DSS. Otherwise, if you are from Europe, you will have GDPR. Then there is DORA. Then there is NIST. And now Indian government is also working towards and bringing some compliance aspects related to the digital world. So there will be so many regulatory compliances that you would probably need to adhere to, and therefore it is important that you take care of them right from the very beginning. Okay. Also, it is very important to involve whoever, if you have a cybersecurity cell, if you have a network team in place, it is very important that you start engaging them early on during the initiation phase itself, because you can utilize them for planning out. You can take their inputs in your planning, in putting up a security project plan as well, so which we'll talk about. Also, look at who is setting up the organizational security policy. So usually there is a security assurance group in the organization who is doing that. So from that perspective, you can always collaborate with them. Okay, so that is another thing that you can do. So usually, I've seen that the scope usually includes encryption, access control, security audits. These are the bare minimum, which are always there, irrespective of the industry, irrespective of the scope of the work that you have. So these are already going to be there. How does this help us? It helps us to reduce cost. It helps us to enhance the security, and it also leads to successful security audits, right? So this is what it really helps us with. So when you conduct the risk assessments, okay, so regular risk assessments, basically it is to help identify what are the vulnerabilities in the system, or what are the process gaps which are there as well. And then also it helps you to prioritize, the measures that you need to take. So which risk is of higher priority to you or has a higher probability of occurring, so based on that, you can, put in the security measures. Also, sometimes this is also constrained by the budget that we have. So you need to accordingly do that. So for example, there was a financial firm which identified that there is phishing and data breach threats, which are there in the new online banking platform they are trying to use. So as we know, as per the risk management framework, there are 5 options. You can avoid the risk, you can reduce the risk, transfer it, accept it, or share it with somebody else. So in this particular case, the financial firm decided to take the reduction mode and mitigate it by doing a multi-factor authentication. I believe you know what is multi-factor authentication. Like, you are logging into even your Gmail today, it will just not let you log into a new device. It will just not let you log in with just your password. It will send the notification to your mobile to say, is it really you? And only when you say, yes, it is really me, then, the mailbox will open for you. So that's what multi-factor authentication, and it's a very common practice today to adopt it. Even the organizations which are still not adopted it have started adopting this. Also, regular security training for the employees. It is very important that the security training for the employees needs to happen right at the initiation phase. The reason being, not only here, in this particular case, but even in case of initiation and planning, because they should know what is expected of them. What is security all about, right? And one of, though I will also talk about learning, but one of the key things, one of the key learnings, education, which is available free in the in our area is certificate in cyber security. It comes from an organization called ISC2. So I'll share that with Deepti so that when she send out a note later to post the call, she can include that in. So it is isc2.org/certifications. You will go there, you will find a certificate in cyber security that is free of cost, and that covers all the basics that you need to know to begin your learning journey with respect to cybersecurity. Of course, there are many other certifications available, like, you have a PMI. Yeah, Deepti.
Yeah, I just want to check, since you mentioned about the certification, Vandana, is it like valid across globe?
Yes.
Yeah.
So ISC2.org it's a world renowned a thing. So I'm not sure if you have heard of CompTIA certifications, but CompTIA certifications are very popular in the cybersecurity area. So they are the ones who do that, and this is the first certificate that you can go, and it's available free of cost, and it is across the world. It is renowned.
Right. Thank you so much. And
So,
one other question, sorry.
No, go ahead.
As in, see, we have a mixed bag of audience here, right? So there
Yes.
are people who belong to cybersecurity place like Ashish mentioned, right? And there are people like me who don't know much about cybersecurity, and others too, right? So wanted to check, if we go for the certification, will there be like a lot of technicalities involved, or it talks about?
It's not very technical. It's very basic and very layman oriented, and there is no cost involved, neither in terms of doing the self-paced learning nor appearing for the certification.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I think this was very, very important to clarify for the audience.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deepti, for asking that. Okay, so doing this risk assessment is going to is basically help you to have a proactive approach to the vulnerabilities, and then also allocate your resources effectively, and based on the risk assessment, you will be able to frame a risk response strategy as well. Okay, so we also need to foster collaboration with the teams, because there needs to be a collaboration between the project management and the cybersecurity team, and they should be there involved in each of the phase, so that you are integrating the security considerations into each phase of the project life cycle. Okay. So therefore, the tech company do that. It helps to avoid rework, reduce your efforts during the testing phase, because there will be very less defects or less findings which will be coming in, and also it leads to a robust product or a robust, data center or whatever you are doing, right? So from that perspective, please keep them engaged. Coming to the planning phase, right? So therefore, it is important to develop the cybersecurity plan. You need to have very clear cut on the roles and responsibilities, because that is the crux of the whole thing. Because people are so confused because it's a new area, and therefore they don't know what is expected of them, what tasks they are supposed to do, what are the timelines, what are the checkpoints. We also need to, even if you do not have the metrics identified during the planning phase itself, it will shape up in due course of time. But you need to identify a timeline by when the metrics need to get defined, and the measurement mechanism. So how will you capture the metrics? Most of the time, we have automated tools these days which capture the metrics as well as we go along. So you don't have to necessarily do that. All you need to do is how all these metrics will be collated together and looked at it very cohesively end to end from the cybersecurity perspective. And then the incident response. Like I said, most of the time, the effort goes all into the planning to make the system secure, but nothing happens if there is an incident, how we are going to respond to it. So there needs to be a thought process and a plan which needs to be laid out right at the planning phase itself. Also, the budget. Licenses are the major cost involved here, because the tools are very expensive. How many tools you will be needing would depend upon the size of the organization, the number of devices they have. Then also the labor, the manpower, the cybersecurity folks are not very cheap. Let me tell that very clearly. And of course, their training also is involves a cost. I'm not saying it's very, very expensive, but of course, there is a cost involved. Also, there is a need for having a cybersecurity awareness training, which I spoke in the earlier slide as well. And then we need to do the threat modeling to identify what risk could arise, what will be their probability, what will be their impact, so that we do the strategy accordingly, right? So also, usually the plan is prepared, but there is no custodian of the plan. Nobody wants to take the ownership of the cybersecurity because everybody wants to run away from it. Because everybody's finding, what if a breach would happen? I will be caught, but needs to be a custodian of the cybersecurity plan, both at the executive level as well as the implementation level, right? Because otherwise there will be no governance. So, and there needs to be a very strong governance for it to be effective, which we all know. So how does this planning phase helps us? It helps to have a detailed roadmap in terms of what are the tasks. And there could be some discoveries which may happen as you go along, which is purely fine, right? Because not everything can be written in stone. And as the cybersecurity area is evolving every day, there are new vulnerabilities, new tools, many new things are coming every day. Therefore, there will be a discovery. There will be some portion of discovery which will happen alongside when the project is proceeding, right? You will be very clear in terms of the resources that you need, because it takes time to have the resources arranged, be it licensing, be it the team members, all that takes time. And then the risk mitigation strategy or the risk management plan. Okay, so now we have the plan, we have everything. What do we do next? So I just wanted I'll take a pause here because we have covered initiation and planning. I would like to take a pause here and ask if you have any questions at this point or anything to share from your experience. Or if not, give a thumbs up, give a say done to say that I have understood. Or you say understood.
Guys, thumbs up or any questions, any queries? Thumbs up.
Yeah, I like the lack of custodian is a pressing challenge, right?
Right. So there were few questions in the chat regarding the certification. With the help of Ashish, we managed to resolve that. But then Jaideep has a question that what would be the area of interest? I think it's related to the certification only. So is there any area of interest when we go for the certification?
So there are a couple of certifications which are available. So usually the certificate in cybersecurity, I take it as step 1, right? Then there is a step 2. There is from the same ISC 2, there is a CompTIA Security Plus certification, which is there. So I treat that as a step 2. So once you have done the certificate in cybersecurity, you can go for the CompTIA Security Plus. It covers the CompTIA Security Plus. I also have been through that. And it covers a wide gambit of, everything, your network, what kind of breaches could be there, what kind of vulnerabilities could be there, or everything. So it is there. It will take you about at least 4 to 5 months to prepare for it. Okay.
Right. Thank you.
And then the third level, which is like very, very, very high level, like an SME kind of certification, which is called CISSP. Okay. So these are the 3 certifications, level 1, level 2, and level 3, I would say, like, I would say simple, medium, and then complex. Look at that way. Yeah, Shivangi, you have a question there.
Yeah. So I was asking, like, do we need to have any experience already, like, which we should have before pursuing this course or something like that?
No. So for a certificate in cybersecurity, no prior experience is required. Okay.
Okay.
But when you go for CompTIA Security Plus or for CISSP, yes, you should have at least been through one cybersecurity project or been through some cybersecurity education before you can do that. Okay. So if anybody wants to do CompTIA Security Plus at a later point of time, I'll share the detail. There is a lady called Sari Green, SARIGREEN. She's there on LinkedIn. If you follow her, she does free sessions on CompTIA Security Plus. And I think she also does it on CISSP. I'm not sure about CISSP, but CompTIA Security Plus, yes, she does that. She also so if you, and it's free of cost again, that she does whenever she does. So it's not there is no frequency that is there. So you can do that. And CISSP she wouldn't be doing because she has there is a recent release of CISSP new version, and she just launched a paid learning out there. So CISSP she is not going to do pretty soon. I'm confident about that. So I will share the details with Deepti. So she will be able to share these details in case you are interested in doing the certification. So I hope that addresses your question, Shivangi.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one question regarding risk management.
Yeah.
How do you suggest to quantify the risk for such cybersecurity topics in terms of quantifying in terms of cost?
So see, it is the cost could be the cost of lost opportunity. So if there is a breach that you think will happen and it will make the systems unavailable for a week or 10 days, then of course the opportunity, and it will take you that much time to revive it up. That is of course the cost that I consider that as a cost. Let me put it that way. So there is no such model that I'm aware of in terms of that can help you to arrive at a cost. But again, it needs to be taken on a case-to-case basis in terms of that if the breach happens, what will be the hit to our brand, right? That's the first thing that will get hit. Will there be any loss of the customers? Will there be, and what will be the corrective action that we need to take? How many days it will take us? What will be the business loss there? And then the preventive measures, what preventive measures would we need to put in, to prevent its future one? And that is why the risk related mitigation strategies or the costs are quite cumbersome. Nobody can quantify them. What is the brand loss? Can you quantify the brand loss? No, you don't know how many customers will go away. So, but you can identify that if you think about in those terms that the quantum is pretty high. The stakes are very high, right? And therefore you need to take care of them ASAP.
Thank you, Vandana. Understood.
Yeah,
thanks, Mustafa, for asking that. All right, thanks.
Okay, so we move ahead, coming to the execution phase. So, it is a very important now you're in the execution phase. You need to design the practices that you're going to follow. As I said, encryption, access, and, all that is very critical. So usually it is the least privilege model. So you give very bare minimum privileges that are required for a person to have or for a role to have. You may hear the role-based access control. That terminology is based that you assign the privileges to a role. If I am to do a role X, I will get only these many privileges. So you basically give very minimum privileges, out there. So that's something which needs to be there. Again, the data. The data is very important. The data flow diagrams are also important because where all your data will flow. So if I register, for the PMI webinar, now where all my data will go, where will my PMP number reflect in, where will it be stored, how will the data, now there are data strategies are of two kinds, the data which is in transit, which means that the data is being submitted and till it reaches your database, and another is data at rest. A data at rest is once it reaches your database, how it is going to be taken care there. But the time the data is flowing from the forms to the database, how is the data while it is in transit? How is it going to be taken care of? So all those, things need to be taken into consideration. Similarly, from the coding point of view, if you are developing a software, OWASP coding practices need to be followed. That's the which is done across the organization. Also the firewall. So first breach, to me, the first breach happens through the network, right? That is where it's more like a door. It's the door of your main house, right? So when you go and I'm just giving an example. When you go to buy a house, what do you look at? Right? If you're going to buy an apartment, you basically look at what is the security. Is there a periphery wall which is there? Is there a guard which is sitting there? Right? You see all that, right? Raise your hand if you say so, if you think so. Right? You know that. So similarly, it is your network which is your periphery. Right? So it is important that you build that in. Similarly, if you're going to buy, say, a house, a row of houses, so you're going to buy a house there. So don't you look at which are my external windows, on the one on the boundary. So what are my windows and doors on the boundary where anybody can come in? Probably a robber can come in or anybody can intrude into my system. So therefore, it is important that you make your network very robust, which can happen only by implementing the firewalls and having very strong firewall policies. So there are policies even for the network that need to be strong enough. Similarly, like I talked about the doors and the windows, so you nowadays there are intrusion detection systems even available for house. So if somebody is trying to break into your house through a door or a window, you will automatically get either the siren will go on or the buzzer will go switch on, or you will get an alert or something will happen, right? Similar intrusion detection systems need to be there on the devices into your firewall. And then also we need to have a regular security testing to ensure, so you can do a breach exercise and see whether the intrusion detection system is working well or not, right? So which is called ethical hacking today, right? And then the security metrics measurement. And of course, there is just so much of buzzword about AI, and AI can help. As I said, the tools are available. Either you buy a suite of tools which are integrated together, and usually there is something which we call as a SIEM tool, which is the event management. So all the events which are happening on the devices, on the network, they get accumulated onto the SIEM tool. And then from the SIEM tool, we are able to analyze in terms of whether there is any susceptible breach, or we are finding something which is not normal. Somebody is trying to garner from outside, not through your organization domain, from some external domains and all those things. So therefore the logging and the auditing becomes very, very important. So from that point of view, okay. So also, the design reviews, the code reviews, and automated testing are some things which are available today. So just to give you an example, there was a healthcare project where I worked, which integrated the secure coding and the penetration testing. So we do a lot of penetration testing to see whether anybody is able to intrude into the, into the software. So penetration testing is done to safeguard the patient data against the cyber attack. There is so much about HIPAA in US, particularly medical fraternity, and therefore this is important. Also, at times we use a lot of third-party softwares. Okay, so third-party softwares, we don't know how rigorously they have been tested, particularly with respect to the cyber security. Therefore, when you are integrating any third-party software, it is important that either you buy a very branded, kind of a thing, because nowadays there are open source softwares which are also available, and we don't know what vulnerabilities they come with. So for example, you may have your Microsoft Mail, which may be integrated with Teams, because that's another Microsoft product. And then, and then to talk to each other, and then maybe your Workday is also integrated. So if such level of, softwares are there, you still need to ensure that they are well, that there are no vulnerabilities into their systems and so forth, and they're well integrated. Any experiences anyone had on the call here with the third party? Did you face any issues at any given point of time? They can raise their hand and share their experience.
Anyone who faced any issue?
Okay, I treat silence as a no. Yeah.
Yeah.
No worries. So be cautious. God forbid, you don't face that. Now that you've been through the session, so you're more cautious about it. And then the backup and the recovery. So most of the time, we do take a backup of the data, right? But we never do the recovery. We never do a disaster recovery exercise, to see whether we are able to, revive, back to the same state using the backup that we have. So therefore, if you haven't planned for the backup and recovery in your project plan, then please take care of that as well. And as well as if you are integrating any third-party softwares or any open source, ensure that you have some time or some tasks related to the penetration testing for those softwares to be tested before you integrate them. So it would be an additional cost also, because the penetration testing that you do for them would bear an additional cost. So keep that in mind. Okay, so coming to the back, so this is going to help you with your monitoring and control. This is going to help you to build resilient systems, and of course, it is going to give you good NPS or CSAT score, as we call it. Okay, so coming to monitoring and control, so it is very important that we continue to monitor, because it's a never ending. Internet is never going to go away. Cyber security will have to be maintained at all points of time. So there is no closure to this project. Let me tell that very clearly. So a cyber security project starts but never ends, because it keeps on going. So, but nevertheless, there is usually a steady state team which takes over once the plan has been implemented. So don't lose heart. You will have something else to look in life as well. So, but the regular security audits, they need to be there to ensure that you are meeting the requirements, the regulatory requirements there. And then also the vulnerability assessments need to be done to ensure that you are protected against all the vulnerabilities that exist today. And to enable that, it is important that the patches are applied. The patch management is very effective. Most of the vulnerabilities, they get usually why these patches come up. Why do you get a Windows patch or some other patches, a Microsoft patch, day in and day out? Because as new vulnerabilities are getting detected, these organizations are updating their software to close the gap with respect to those vulnerabilities. So therefore, the patch management is very important, particularly for the devices, because that is the one area which will lead to vulnerability going potentially high if the latest patches have not been installed. And therefore, whenever you get on your laptop, a notification that there is a patch or you need to reboot your machine, you need to have the patches applied, don't delay it any further at any given point of time. Do it immediately. Okay. So of course, we need to monitor the intrusion detection systems. We need to have the disaster recovery and the incident response drills. So it is not only the disaster recovery drill which needs to be there, which we spoke about in the previous chart, but also the incident response. So you think that hypothetically some tabletop exercises can be done to see that if a response happens, who will do what? Because that is very important. First of all, where is the incident response plan kept? It should definitely be put as a hard copy and available with the people who need to be, implementing or have a role to play in the incident response, right? Because if you keep it in the soft copy and your system is not available, what will you do? You will not have any plan. It's as good as not having a plan, right? So therefore, always take a hard copy of your incident response plan and ask every stakeholder who has a role to play there to keep it. And whenever there is a new version, ask them to trash the old version and put in the new version. So that's one. The drill which happens for the incident response is very important, because one, it tells you who is to play what. Also, there are different kind of scenarios. You can incident response. The incident response can be a cyber attack, could be even a natural calamity that also can make your systems unavailable. If you remember a couple of years ago, the rainfalls were so heavy in Chennai, right, that the entire data centers, which were particularly in the basements, they were totally flooded, right? And that's when the incident response comes into picture. Now, in case of a flooding, the incident response is going to be a lot different than the incident response in case of a cyber breach, in case of a cyber attack. So therefore, in your incident response, in your plan, as well as your drills, you need to have use case based scenarios. You need to tell that in this particular scenario, this is what is going to be done. Who are the people who need to be involved. And similarly, in case of a cyber attack, these are the response mechanisms which will be there in place, right? Any questions on this so far? On execution and the monitoring and control?
Well, there's a question in the chat.
Sure. You're talking about the vendor security?
Yeah, so Ravita wanted to know, actually, she wants you to throw some measures on cybersecurity when we work with a vendor. We outsource so many functions and data. If you could share how we ensure cybersecurity while working with vendors. That's her specific ask.
Okay, so in case of vendors, you need to first of all see again the same thing. So it depends on what is the scope for the vendor, right? So therefore, definitely you need to tell them, for example, they are taking care of your email security. Then you need to see that how many emails were curtailed and thrown up as a part of that, right? So those are some of the metrics which are there. Similarly, if there was an endpoint or which is being managed, the vulnerability. So how many times there was a vulnerability which was how many times was the vulnerability related tickets were reported by the vendor, right? So all those measures would need to be there, or even for that matter, of X number of devices, X of Y, number of devices, how many of them did had a vulnerability ticket raised for them, right? How many of the devices have been patched, right? That is the kind of metrics that you will collate. So if there are missed patches, that's what it is going to be. Or for that matter, how many of the devices have non-expiry passwords, right? So sometimes they will be, or the software may have non-expiry passwords. So how many non-expiry passwords are there? Similarly, how many IDs are there which do not have an owner? Maybe the people have left, right? But then their IDs are still existing in the system, which can be misused, right? So from that perspective, those are some of the metrics, which you can put in place in terms of which we call as orphan IDs in the normal parlance. So all those metrics can be taken into consideration. Does that happen to address your answer? And there are many other. There is no dearth of metrics today because we are in an AI world, right? So there are n number of metrics which are there, but it would entirely depend on what you are trying to measure.
So, thanks for your answer. Like, I'll give you a very specific problem which, many of us might have faced in any industry. For example, we have some leads. Now, I have worked in telecom insurance, and we are getting these calls done on those leads through a vendor, through a third party. Now, those people who are agents, who are basically doing cold calling on those leads or something, on any kind of leads, whether it's over emails or over calls, they can actually go to a competitors, or they can go in the open market and they can sell the leads because they have the phone number of the customer. So how can we can integrate cyber security at such micro level?
This is not cyber security.
Okay.
I wouldn't say this is not in the scope of cybersecurity. The cybersecurity is more related to your network, to your data, right? But this is the data is sellable, right? All the leads that you have today, you also bought it from somewhere, the data, correct?
Maybe
Yeah,
one
maybe
point.
acquired through Facebook or maybe through Instagram. We have
Exactly. So
yeah.
nobody can stop selling that data which is available. So you need to be cautious, in terms of doing that. But of course, what you can do is you can put automated systems in place by which only a particular few digits of the numbers get there, are visible to to these callers, and they can only click in terms of putting a call to those numbers. So that can be done in terms of, we call it as masking of data. So you can mask the data.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Maybe one point from my side could be that you can sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, with your vendors.
Yeah, non-disclosure agreements are there, but then even they are not technically they are not stopping anyone, right? It's more like a ethical, agreement which is there in place. But from a technical point of view, the masking of data can be undertaken.
Yeah, I was about to say that. So we usually do that in a lot of cases, but then it all depends on the ethics of the other person whom we are working with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, right. Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay.
Ashish has his hand raised. Ashish?
Yeah, I just want to answer your question. I have a point there
Mhm.
that we can also do one thing which is called as a cyber security awareness training to the employees. Though we cannot stop these guys to we cannot stop 100% to disclose these kind of data to the employee, but still we can at least facilitate a awareness training kind of a thing in which we can teach them how to deal with the data and what you should do and what you should not do. And
Right.
I think this is generally this is in the practice for in various industries. We do after the project implementation, we definitely give a security awareness training to each and every employees, like from lower to the higher employees. Everybody we give. So I have seen certain changes in the behavior of the candidate, and any kind of breaches, they don't do any kind of breaches after such trainings basically.
Yeah, thanks, Ashish. Very valid point. So nowadays, the cybersecurity educations are mandated throughout the organizations. So which brings in the awareness to these, what to do, what not to do, particularly with respect to the phishing attacks and so forth. Even some of the organizations run the phishing, dummy attacks so that they are able to spread the knowledge. And if the people who fall prey to those attacks, they are asked to undergo the training all over again. So those are some of the measures which the companies do. Thanks, Ashish. Any other?
Thank you. We are almost at the top of the hour.
Yeah, I will try to complete it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So the e-commerce firms, they do the monthly audits, and they ensure that the latest security standards and updates to the protocols are there, and it has to stay over time. So the monitoring and control, it helps to gauge the effectiveness of the measures which have been put in place. It helps to identify the issues early on, and it helps to ensure the regulatory and the security compliance. The last is the disposal. As I said, there is no closure, but there could be end-of-life devices, there could be end-of-life product. It is very important to sanitize the data out of these end-of-life devices or the product. At the same point of time, it may be important to retain the data or archive the data for a couple of years, depending on the regulatory requirements it pertains to. Some say it for 3 years, some ask for 5 years. So depending on the amount of time left, you may have to identify a suitable data archive or retention mechanism or strategy for such end-of-life devices or the product. Then also the revocation of the user accesses, how those licenses are also going to be revoked and handled so that the licenses are not misused at any given point of time, because you've paid a cost to it, as well as there are certain other nuances related to the licenses that they will not be used for any unethical means and so forth. Then decommissioning of the cloud services, and then an end-of-life security assessment is a must to ensure that all the above or any other thing that is there as a part of the requirement has been taken care of. So, for example, a bank may upgrade to a new CRM system and they need to decommission the old one. And the banking, the data is so important, that you cannot have any exposure there. So in those kind of projects, the disposal, the decommissioning importance gains multifold. So it helps to prevent the misuse of the data, ensure the compliance without compromising on the security, and it helps you to avoid the legal implications. Right. So these are just wanted to say that we need to ensure the documentation, which is to be clearly maintained. It needs to be there because again, the audits, the PCI, the SOX, other audits, all those audits will ask for the documentation. So please ensure that you're building the documentation. As Ashish pointed out, it can be very cumbersome, but that is something you have to do, from that particular point of view, because it helps to have a clear roles and responsibility task, and also, things like that. So you need to be there. I'll just skip this, given that we are over short of time, we have spoke at length about training both for ourselves and for the teams, so therefore it is very important that you build in a security awareness training within the plan. It should be there on an ongoing basis. Again, it is not a one-time thing which should happen. It's that it happens at the start and the end of the program, but it needs to be on a continuous basis. So please include that over in your plan. And then the automated security tools, we already spoke. Don't use, don't take any shortcuts here. The automated tools are the best way because it's a standard enforcement. It's the standard model used across the organization, and it helps to enhance the security multifold. So you have, automated scans for vulnerabilities, for patches, for everything which is available here. So utilize that, and of course, they give the metrics in a very beautiful way. So this is to conclude, we need to integrate cybersecurity into the project management framework right from the very beginning because it enhances the project success. It also helps us to protect the sensitive data and the digital assets and from the potential threats. And lastly, the proactive security measures, they lead to a smoother project execution and a stronger organizational security. So we take a pledge here today that we will build security from the ground up. We will integrate cyber resilience into every project. I hope you are with me on this pledge.
We are, Vandana. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This last slide also answers Deepak's question. So he put it in the chat. How should one start his cybersecurity journey? What is the roadmap?
You're talking in terms of self-learning?
Deepak, could you please specify whether it's self-learning or in terms of, self-learning, Deepak?
So self-learning, Deepak, I already said you need to take the certificate in cybersecurity from ISC2. That's step 1. Step 2 is to go for CompTIA Security Plus. In case you want to venture more into network is of interest to you, there is a Network Plus as well, which is available. And the last, which is like a crown, is the CISSP.
Yeah, as you said, easy, medium, and difficult.
Yes.
All right. With that, I would like to take a moment and thank you on behalf of the entire North India chapter for being with us today and sharing such an important information. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the webinar, so we talk about different topics. I think this is the first time we are talking about this chapter, this topic in, as far as I remember, last 3-4 years, I guess. And this is one topic which usually gets brushed aside. We don't talk about it quite often, but I'm sure now our users, our chapter members are more learned, and I'm sure a few of them are already excited to get their certification too. So thank you so much, Vandana, for taking out time and enlightening us with your knowledge on cybersecurity space. And as a token of gratitude, PMI North India chapter has planted a tree under your name, under Trees of India Foundation. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is a small thing that we've done from our end, but I'm sure you'll love it. I'll share this tree certificate as well with you on your email. You'll be able to locate this tree, where exactly it is planted.
Sure, that would really be great. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you again.
Thank you.
To our chapter members who are there on call, there's this PDU claim ID. So you can take the screenshot. Sorry, I think I missed this. Here it is mentioned October. It's November 16. My bad. So you can claim one PDU out of this webinar. So you need to go to CCRS dashboard, click on report PDUs, click on course and training, and the course provider would be PMI North India chapter, and the course name would be Learning Bytes 4.0, integrating cybersecurity into project management frameworks. And the PDU claim ID is C118BHCVUD. And start date and end date would be today's date, not October 16, but November 16. My bad. And in case you face any issues, you can reach out to me or Vikas Madan, and you'll get one PDU under ways of working. Hope this helps. Again, Vandana, thank you so much on everyone's behalf, on behalf of PMI North New Chapter, and on behalf of all the people who are there on this webinar, because this was an amazing session, and I'm sure by the end of it, we now know how to integrate cybersecurity in our project management frameworks. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for such a participative one and an interactive session. I truly enjoyed it. And I wish you the best on your cybersecurity journey as well. So if you need any help at any given point of time, you can reach me on LinkedIn or even on my WhatsApp, and I will be happy to help you. Thank you and best wishes.
Thank you so much, Vandana. That's much appreciated. So you can search Vandana on LinkedIn. In fact, we did share her LinkedIn LinkedIn link when we put up the post regarding this webinar, and in the thank you email as well, we'll add that. And the certification details and other information will also be shared in the email that you receive.